My disease process started in my hands. So I started off journaling and writing poetry, and it evolved into doing images of affected body parts, and that just kind of helps to bring some closure and then just, a spiritual side of healing. Like here, this is one of my favorite images, just that just putting your hands up in the air. It's really about surrendering to whatever is happening and just going with that. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is saying, I open myself to whatever may come.
My name is Mary Wilson Wheelock, and I'm the Executive Director of the ALS Association Northern Ohio Chapter. The Ice Bucket Challenge made ALS a household name. Ice Bucket Challenge videos were watched 440 million times for a total of 10 billion views. Yet, despite the sensational success of the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, many still do not understand the disease. ALS stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. ALS is characterized by a progressive degeneration of motor neurons, which are responsible for connecting brain signals with voluntary muscle movement. Our work is motivated by our vision to create a world without ALS.
We've known each other since we were about 10 years old, so 5th grade I think is when Treg and I met, and Barry moved into town later from Pittsburgh, but we lived right in Chagrin Falls here together, within a mile of each other, and then all of us ended up going to Ohio State and ultimately roomed together at Ohio State. We were in the same fraternity together at Ohio State and ultimately ended up settling down back in Chagrin Falls again. So Barry was diagnosed formally in, I believe, May of 2006, right? Treg, I don't know.
March of 2010.
March of 2010.
It couldn't happen to me.
Right.
You were ahead of us. I couldn't get it.
Yeah, we didn't think you could get it.
Patients come first in everything that we do at the Northern Ohio Chapter.
The ALS Association has been there from day one, from my first visit down at the Cleveland Clinic. And whether it's been a physical need, an emotional need, a communication need, a connection need, an advocacy need, they've been there.
I think it's very important that people are aware of what they do. And when I was first diagnosed, I didn't know until I found them. I think it's important for everyone to know that they're out there.
In February of 2015, we launched the ALS Care Grant Program, which provides reimbursements of up to $500 per quarter to patients to cover the cost of medically necessary expenses not typically covered by insurance.
The Ice Bucket Challenge infused enough money that they could start it right away, which is good for us. We have used it. It reimburses expenses, related to ALS. We paid for the installation of that stair lift, but we got it back. We were reimbursed by the ALS Association through the grant program for the installation of the lift, so technically that thing cost us nothing.
The ALS Association called and said, we have a fraternity who's interested in doing a service project, and we had talked about some raised garden beds, and I said, well, as it happens, my husband and I are hatching this plan to do a walkway, and maybe they'd like to help us with it.
I got in contact with the ALS Association. I met with them approximately 2 or 3 months ago, and after I met with them, they said that they had a couple families in mind that we could help. The ALS Association got me in contact with Mary Ann Nays, and from then on we started the project. We'll be building a wooden walkway out from the back patio here along the edge of the backyard, following the perimeter. It will go along the building here, and it will end along the fence over there, and there's going to be a place for Mary Ann to sit and do physical therapy on the end. There will be handrails along the sides, so she's able to support herself and walk along. And hopefully, at the end of the project, we'll be able to add a second railing below the hand railing with boxed plants so she can garden from the walkway.
I do want to say about the fraternity that they have been very thoughtful. And one of the things that I've just held most close to my heart about this group of fine young men is that they've treated me with such compassion and not pity, and I really appreciate that. They're bright, energetic young men, and their parents should be so proud of them.
Our chapter is committed not only to the patients, but the families as well, and caregivers in particular. In 2005, we established the Founders Respite Care Program, which offers reimbursements to families to hire an outside support person for up to 8 hours per month. We are introducing art therapy to our support groups.
Well, I think, when you're experiencing something physical, you're limited in what you used to be able to do. So you need to look for new ways to do other things or to adapt. And art just speaks from the soul.
As muscles weaken, equipment is needed to maintain the best quality of life, but it can be costly and overwhelming. For this reason, we operate an equipment loan closet, which includes wheelchairs, lifts, ramps, communication devices, basically everything an ALS patient might need to stay mobile and connected.
ALS is really hard. There isn't a single thing I do all day that is easy. I have 3 children. Katie 20. Charlie 19. Will 13. All 3 have struggled with the realities of ALS in their own way. It affects not only the people that are diagnosed but everyone around them. Live every day to the fullest. When I was first diagnosed, there was an outpouring of community support. We ended up having a party and raising a bunch of money. After that, we knew we had to be good stewards of that money. In the last 2 years, we donated $50,000 to ALSA to help offset their research contribution to national. At one of our events a few years ago, we had really cool guy by the name of Quinn with an idea to have everyone decorate individual tiles. After, he made me this table and this beautiful piece of art that I'm able to look at every day. It really brings a smile to my face.
The happiest part of his day is when people aren't afraid to say hi or just talk to him. So basically, don't be afraid. He's has a positive outlook. He wants to talk to people. He will talk to you as much as he can.
The name of this quilt is Forest Tribute, and I have there, inspired at the family cottage in the Allegheny Forest. This quilt is a tribute to the beauty that is the forest, and honors the healing power of nature. It always makes me cry. Red oak, hickory, and white oak trees provide a high sheltering canopy, and graceful evergreen hemlock pines exhale healing breezes. And then I explain how I made the quilt. And then I put, I was able to compile this quilt at my sewing machine, despite the use of only 2 fingers on each hand due to motor neuron disease weakness. And even though I can no longer rake or haul these leaves, I can still sew to honor them in this quilt. Nature does heal. I use the actual leaf for each block applique design, and each variety is depicted in its summer and fall colors. The hemlock branch design was freeform on my sewing machine. Loving support from many, especially my husband Rick, helped to complete this quilt. I also thank my mother for teaching me to sew.
A significant portion of our program support comes from our events, like the Walk to Defeat ALS. Every fall, the Northern Ohio chapter hosts walk events in Cleveland, Akron, Toledo, and Youngstown.
I think this is just what my dad vicariously lives through, and it was made, and it's just a quote that he really liked and that our whole family really liked, and the artist did a really wonderful job of keeping it all together and putting it into such an interesting format. And it says, "A small victory is death, a little more than a calculated certainty. A life of passion and triumph over adversity is the true champion of God. Eternal life has begun. We are together in it at this moment." I think about it every day, how bad it would be or how he deals with it, but he's always had a very positive attitude about the entire situation. People might think that we don't have as good a relationship because he can't talk, but I think that I'm one of the only people that can understand him, and I know that he's proud of me, and I can tell that he is. I am this guy's son, and my name is Charlie Winovich.
I will end with a quote from ALS patient and Ice Bucket Challenge co-founder Pat Quinn. "What happened last summer was historic. It started the end of ALS."